we no longer want to talk about employment. Any government minister who talks about employment, kick him off the stage. We want ownership. We don't want employment. That all the proceeds from the booklet of quotes on Maponga J is actually going towards building that institution. So I think I've thrown the net wide open and funneled it towards the people that have an interest in what I'm doing. On my pages of Afrocentric ancestry. So it's all black sponsored.
Welcome to Marcelo Simon Show. Today we are joined by a very important man that I love, that I adore. I was a bishop, currently is a Pan-Africanist, an author, and a businessman. How are you, sir?
All is well.
Yes. How's life lately?
Oh, pushing.
It's an honor, sir, to have you back here. I feel so blessed. There's a lot to learn from you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
Sir, one day you spoke about having to have your own institution whereby you will impart the wisdom that you have. How is that going so far?
We're still developing the materials.
Yes.
As of writing, putting a curriculum together.
Yes.
And because I'm not only going to be trying to teach from zero, though I'll have a small little section for that, but that's lots of work. I'm trying to look at certificates, diplomas, degrees, masters and PhD students. I want to create like a bridging course between the Eurocentric academic institutions and an Afrocentric thinking pattern. So we are putting some, what I might call some bridging courses, like on issues of thinking, using African idioms, African poetry, and totemic inclinations and language-based sort of thing. So now how do you begin to interpret and turn your English white education and then allow the African thing to become an overlay on that kind of education? So we're still developing material. The first booklet is out, which is the Farmers of Thought quotes. You could have seen one of the pages that is actually running on Facebook. And I think it's sitting on about 300, 400,000 plus now, where one of my students just decided to walk around my writings and pick up quotations. And he has actually been able to put them on a page. Then I took them in and I compiled them into a booklet. So we're now old people used to say proverbs and idioms.
Yes.
The question is, are only these relics of language, or there's actually a science of relationships, of business, of human existence and religion. So if you pick up all those proverbs and you put them together, you might actually find that we have the DNA of all our institutions of learning, but it's not written. So decoding that oral tradition into formal, and I'm using the word formal with the quotations, that's what we're doing right now,
So I know you are a person who's so much passionate about the Black community, about Africans as a whole. You don't care whether it's South African, whether Mozambican or people from Angola. Is this institution going to be in Zimbabwe only, or is going to be an online institution?
It will be very nice to have one-on-one. Nothing beats that.
Yes.
Because I have a principle that I say, learn my ways and my words will come to you. So the online will only give them an opportunity to experience the words. But to experience the ways needs someone to take off their shoes, walk the ground, eat the food, drink the water, prune a tree, tame an animal, walk the ground, as it were. So I'm planning to make it a virtual, but I've already started building an institution in Zimbabwe. We got a 20-hectare farm where we have started now putting some structures in place. We've dug a well, a traditional well there now. The big roundabouts is there, the dancing place for the rituals and dances. And I also put a borehole. I want to put some chalets and stuff like that so that actually people can come and walk in some space, which is like my homestead, the sanctuary, almost like a temple. Similar to what the Indian gurus and other people of old were always doing, where you have a place where students from around the world, either before graduation, during graduation, or during research, can come and actually settle in, and we can have some moments. So I've identified 2 sites so far. Both of them actually under construction. One is my place of birth, That's my
It's
grand
very
focus fund.
important.
Yeah, that one is there. And I think about 3, 4, 5 structures already in place there. Plus, I've also put water there now, where I was born. So I've now built up this other, which I might want to make it into an institution, like a proper workplace, where I can begin to accept visitors and students from around the world for the very purpose of teaching and learning. I will be learning from them. They'll be learning from me also.
You have like land in Kwandebele that you wanted to build an institution also, right?
In Kwandebele, yes, we had some discussions that we had done with the Jewish Hebrew community, and it went on, but funding and COVID happened, and lots of the plans fell in between the cracks. So when I decided to move back into Zim, I thought maybe the idea is still alive and well. Let me start doing what I can do where I am right now. But I think in the right time, when the guys have put their funding together, we may resuscitate the Kwandebele project. Yeah.
There's a thing that most Africans say, and even one of them, Dr. Johnson Omar Efatunde, was saying that as Black community, we want to build institution for our own people in the purpose of educating our own people. But at the end, we go to people from other communities, specifically the white people, who he was saying that they don't have interest in us as Blacks, and we go to us funding from them. And then in doing that, obviously they have benefits that they want to, and it end up diluting our purpose that we want to do to our people. So your institution specifically, is it funded by Black people or even other races? You don't care who's funding it as long as the dream is fulfilled.
For now, I can put it on record that all the construction that has happened is my personal funding. I'm using my own money. But with the establishment of this booklet that we now have been able to come up with,
Yes.
It won't be expensive. I think they've made it about $4.99. So we are going to take the proceeds. I think $1 goes to the social media and marketing person. $1 goes to the guys who are doing the interviews and the financial institution, the back office. Farmers of Thought will then take $1. That is the institution. And me as an author, I'll take $1. So we have already done the model. So when you see and your people view and see that advert, please, you must know actually. But I'll put a note there that all the proceeds from the booklet of quotes on Maponga J is actually going towards building that institution. So I think I've thrown the net wide open and funneled it towards the people that have an interest in what I'm doing so far. And almost 99% of the people that are on my pages are of Afrocentric ancestry. So it's all black sponsored and all African sponsored, and with lots of interactions between ourselves and some institutions that are in Ghana and institutions that are in Uganda and other religious and spiritual people that have come to meet up with or have already indicated an interest in coming to take some holiday sabbaticals at the campus, the sanctuary, and share their knowledge both in herbal treatments, be it in childbirth stories, be it in agriculture, be it in spirituality, growth, fashion, music. So it will be quite literally. I don't want to institutionalize it to a point of making it square, but I want it to be lifestyle kind of center where we are doing edutainment, culturetainment, and herbaltainment.
It'll be African food.
Yeah, and even sportstainment, bring up all old games and begin to look at the science between Lava and Nodo, Pada, those games we used to play as children, draw boxes, one leg up, one leg down, and, and begin to look into all that. I'm not looking at them as games, but look at the science and the formulas that one is using to calculate all these exponents and coming up with principles of life, which were never spoken in word. But sooner or later, if you play this game long enough, you begin to have symmetry of how to maneuver your way around these games and how to quickly, by a glance of an eye, make serious calculations. 8 over here, it's 2 over here, I have 6 there. So if I take 2 and then throw 6, then I'm going to end up here. There's 4 there. If I do 4 there, or end up on box number what. And that for me, that mathematics formula, you won't find that in a video game. You won't find that in a video game. So
find it on AI.
So I want to call it sportstainment, medicine-tainment, combined with language, walking around the trees, identifying the names of the trees and how the names of the trees are actually related to the body anatomy. Mususu is a tree, susu is a stomach. So mususu treats the susu. So you take a tree like mususu and then you look at susu, you can actually see the relationship there. Vamaropa, where the blood comes from. And what are the elements of Mvamaropa which actually speaks to your blood, which we can learn from there. Mukona Chando, which are the willows in Shona, the tree that does not succumb to cold. What kind of elements and trace elements are in this tree which can actually be used to resist cold and flus and etc. So Zumbani, the one that we use for steaming ourselves when we got flus and stuff. So there's lots of learning, but the learning must happen in its natural habitat. That while you're learning the language, you're learning the stones, you're learning the weather, you're learning the trees, you're learning the grass, and all this information must slowly and constantly be linked up both to your anatomy, to your cultural space, and ultimately when you walk away from there, you might walk away with no piece of paper, but the knowledge that you'll have received is actually as fundamental to life itself as life can be. So if you're talking about Mchakata, which is a tree which the Shona people usually do their prayers on, and you talk about Hakata, which are the throwing of the bones. So what is the relationship between Chakata and Hakata? It's quite interesting and fascinating for me. That's why I'm saying I'm a student there also, because then the little that I know, once I activate that, students will be able to come up with more of that information so that we build an institution of knowledge. I plan to put a pharmaceutical hub on the center. Every student and every person who walks up to that institution must plant a tree on the institution and name it, and then study the tree, know what the tree does, and then how does the tree relate to other trees. So even our vegetation and the botany has relationships with each other. Now you can mix this and this tree to come up with this. You can mix this herb and this herb. But if you look at those names, they begin another whole matrix of complicated tapestry of human existence. And Africans, we have that in us. And by the time you come to naming children or naming tribes or naming cultural practices, and you look at the similarities between the dance, the tree, the herb, the culture, the practice, and I feel it's a level of study that even if I can walk up to a library, I will not find a single term paper or research paper that has been done with that amount of symbiosis and interconnectedness of how language, life, trees, what we might want to call the entirety of African cosmology, boiling pot of this barrage of a collage of African existence. And I think an institution of this nature, availing itself to these practices and lifestyles, would be able to offer a student a par excellent environment. So whether you're eating, you're learning, whether you're dancing, you're learning, whether you're plowing, you're learning, whether you're harvesting, you're learning, whether it's raining, you're learning, it's at night, you're learning stars, you're learning birds, you're learning, you walk into a space of constant learning. And I hope that by the time the student walks out from here, every student must walk away with their own brand. Mm-hmm. You'll have found yourself. Who are you? Your totems, mothers and fathers, grandfathers and grandparents. If you begin to put that all together, it will be horoscopes of the highest order, because there is the entire DNA of who you are and where you're coming from. So the more you study about yourself in your past, you may be able to understand yourself in the present.
Yeah. Sir, at what time did you decide, okay, let me do this to my people? Because to be honest, sir, from a distance, I can say you were doing well. You had the church, you were teaching to people, you had like actually most of the things that you wanted. Now, at what time do you say, okay, now I have to do this to Black people?
Having things is poverty. Because the more the things you have, the more the things have you. And they have a tendency of eating into you. And then you have an abundance of materials and an emptiness of the soul and the heart. So you begin to have more cars, more bikes, more TVs. Every room has got a TV, more clothes, more shoes. Then expand. But the more the things are gathering, the less you have to put on. You wake up in the morning and you can't find something to put on. You switch on all your TVs and can't find something to watch. You get to that moment where you reach a certain saturation of acquiring and the constant desire to purchase and have things. And it happens maybe to a few of us, where then you begin to become minimalistic. And it offends you to put on a suit. It offends you to put on a jacket and a tie. It offends you trying to impress people. You begin to go inside yourself, as it were, an eagle shading off its old wings and its old beak. You begin to say, what's the meaning of life? Okay, I've been there, I've done that, got the t-shirt and it's torn. I've received accolades. Even from Vets here, I got a Golden Keys Award from here. The whole wardrobe full of shelves full of awards, and you look at them and say, can I leave this as an inheritance for my children? And can they benefit anything from this? And so I think about 15 years ago, my mind started walking backwards. I walked very fast to the front. And then I discovered, I'd left something very important behind. I slowly was losing myself into the hype of colonial excitement and, who is who in town. You fly across Nigeria, you meet the bishops, you meet the archbishops, you walk around the festivals here, you meet all the celebrities. I was coming from Joya Celebration. I done DSTV, I done my own radio shows, TV shows, Bafundisi, I'm a bishop, and in the National Footprint Revolution channels in Europe, writing music for movies, and Lalela, but something inside my heart kept on saying, maybe this is not it. And when I started walking this path, I started having satisfaction in very small things.
You are making money. It's like
and money was also making me. Money was making me into something else. The money that I made brought its own friends who spent the same money, brought its own problems, which I had to use the same money to fix, brought its own expectations, which I had to constantly meet, brought its own name, which I had to live up to, brought its own environments, and functions, which I had to attend and I had to pay for, brought its own holidays, which I had to fly myself there and spend. So this whole thing almost, it makes you, and everyone from outside looks and thinks that you're fine, but the walls inside your spirit start collapsing one by one. And then you wake up one morning and say, that's not me. That's not me. So I changed my name from Joshua, which is my grandfather's name, however. He had two names, Marara, Joshua. And I said, no, maybe this Joshua story is too religious, and let me use Marara. Marara means rubbish. So I had to collapse everything into rubbish. But not rubbishes of rubbish, but rubbishes of manure. The trees, when they shed off the leaves that fall on the ground, they make that manure. That's Marara in Shona. So when you take mahaha, when you take that Marara and you decompose it nicely, it's a beautiful place to plant new seeds for the next season.
So previously we spoke a little bit of American elections, and yesterday, if not 2 days ago, I saw you posted a poster with your face on it with American elections. I think there was Trump and Kamala and yourself, and written American elections, something. What was the meaning of that poster?
We did a program, we did a show actually. That was an advert. We for too long have been listening to America doing supervisions on our elections and passing commentaries on our elections. So I thought, crying out loud, why can't Africans also just for once interrogate their American policy, their judiciary system and their elective process, and see, is it fair, is it democratic, is it truthful? And here's America talking about human rights and gay and lesbian rights, sexless society, colorless society, genderless society. And yet the election of Kamala Harris is based on gender, and it's based on color. I found that to be a bit conflicting. And then looking at the wars that are happening around the world and the involvement of America in these controversies and conflicts around the world, it was interesting to reflect and see what would the new president do with Ukraine, what would the new president do with Israel, what would they do with China, and of excitement to me, what would they do with the BRICS and the new boy on the block who is now going to terrorize them. So my advice to the Americans was, if you want to continue on the same trajectory, go for Kamala Harris. So that at least by what Biden was doing, she was the deputy president. Life will continue as usual. But should you go for Trump, then you must be prepared to deal with an angry man who has been victimized by the system. Surely he's coming back. He wants to settle some scores, saying all the right things about Christianity, saying all the right things about human rights, and etc. And when Christians have given him their vote, I want to see how they're going to convert that vote in terms of dealing with human rights. It was quite an interesting conversation. And all things being said, the mischief of the American democracy, that even Trump is not prepared to take the loss in a democratic system. So I was wanting to interrogate, is it possible that actually the epitome of democracy in the world can also have rigged votes and preference votes, the deep state kind of stories, and how is the American democracy being challenged? What is the internal policy? What are the external policies? And above all, when the Jews vote, they vote looking at Jerusalem. When the Arabs vote, they vote looking at the Middle East. When the Latinos vote, they vote looking at the policies of America towards South America. And when the indigenous people in America, the blood Indians, vote, they are nowhere to be found, even on the Constitution. But of shame, it's when the African vote. They are looking at America. They're not looking at Africa.
America, whether we accept it or not, or want it or not, somewhere, somehow, it has a huge influence in most of African people, in Africa specifically, because you look at their movies, they're influencing us to wear a certain way, to talk a certain way, their music videos, we wear their brands, most of us, and they're playing a role as a parent to a lot of African people, say. So what advice can you give to young people who idolize America as this super powerful country?
That narrative has changed drastically as of 2024. The whole idea that actually now the BRICS currency can wrap the American budget around its one finger 2 or 3 times already tells you that America is no longer a superpower. The fact that China, Russia, and North Korea can go and stick their finger in the eye of America, and America right now is divided whether to go to war in Ukraine or to go to war in the Middle East. And when they come to me, what do they do with Africa now? What do they do with Haiti? And they cannot have battles all around the world. And the worst time any superpower collapses, it is when they are at their best. And I think from the Saddam Hussein, Libya story, Afghanistan story, Iraq story, America started actually losing its influence, its moral influence around the world. So that even right now when you are speaking, we do these programs because we're correcting that narrative.
Yes.
That what they used to call the American dream, the latest boy on the shelf right now is the African dream. What are you going to be doing with yourself? Now you've learned that people can buy brands, beautiful Nikes and Techies and etc. Are you happy? What if I tell you that you can actually come up with your own brand? Is that not about what Bato is doing?
Yes.
Is that not what Lieto is doing? You can put on your Gucci, you can put on your Armanis. Oh, that's nice. How about my boss?
Yes.
How about my Babingo? There we are. How about coming? So we don't have to cry over what the Americans have done to us, but rather let's learn from that and say, you have made money out of McDonald's. Sharp. Now we know that you can actually package food and sell it. So how about with our chisanyamas? And we come up with our own brands. Oh, Coke is nice, but now we know that Coke is dangerous. It's not very healthy. So about coming up with a maheu and our own traditional stuff and begin to become healthy. So that's why we are teaching extensively on the issues of health healthful living, drinking your herbs and drinking your indigenous stuff, indigenous foods and we want this African lifestyle to become popular. Because once it becomes popular, we will take our money and we'll invest it in the things that are important to us.
Talking about eating healthy, sir, do you still eat one meal a day?
Yes, I do.
What's the real reason for that? Because like most of us, we can go like very, very, very tough on one meal a day. We eat like 3 or 4 meals a day.
I think our generation is eating too much, and the stomach is never resting. People are always filling it up with food, and I might not be medically trained to do a research and see the difference between a bushman and an aborigine and the people in the ice up in the Eskimos who eat 1 or 2 meals a day vis-a-vis the people that are eating 3 meals a day and between the meals and bubble gums and drinks and snacks and maybe if we can get some medical students who can actually research on 2 stomachs and see which one is healthier and which one is always tired and busy and manufacturing diseases, I beg to go to the past. I don't even need that research because in the rural area where I grew up, that's how I grew up. We used to eat our 1 meal a day, late in the afternoon or supper. In the morning, you eat your berries, your fruits, and along the bush when you're heading cattle, and a little bit of milk here and there, and some baobab yogurt, and that will keep you going. But we had enough energy to work for the whole day until we have our last meal. Then whatever meal remains for the night, then that will be your thing for tomorrow morning and etc. Then you're lucky that you actually have breakfast, or else we'll be roasting our mealies, drying our peanuts and etc. And that becomes you like mpako. Those were our snacks. But this whole thing of having 5, 6 eggs for breakfast, and oats, and then fruit salad, and 2, 3 glasses of juice, come lunchtime, it's pizzas, it's burgers, and then some snacks, then in the evening, steak, and what. I think obesity is one of the fastest growing diseases in Africa, particularly in the economically able community. And with that, we are losing quite a number of our young people because they are no longer active, but they're eating a lot. In the olden days, we used to eat less, but we were working a lot. So you would never find people, young boys at the age of 16, 18, already struggling with the belly, fat hanging in their cheeks and ears. I mean, 6, 15, 12-year-old boy with high blood pressure, arthritis. You wonder, what happened to sports? What happened to riding bicycles? What falling from trees?
Yeah.
What happened to chasing a chicken before you eat it? And I bet you those big fat boys and girls, if you give them a chicken, say, "There's your supper," they won't catch it.
They won't.
They won't catch it. So yes, intermittent fasting is healthy because when there is less food in the stomach, you give more blood into your brain for thinking and for other activities, even for dreaming and visions, and your thought patterns are much more clearer when you are fasting and you're eating less than when you're always. That's why when you eat a good full meal, what's the first thing you do? Sleep. You sleep. You're tired. Why? Because all the blood drains from the head and everywhere else to the stomach to start the digestive process. And just when it is about to rest, put some more. Just when you're about to rest, pump some more. Just when you're about to sleep, put. Come on, guys, man. I think whoever came up with this method of 3 meals a day, I think it was just a commercial gimmick. I bet it must be challenged. Some financial mischief is happening there. People are selling all this food, and people don't need as much food as we're eating.
Our education system having its own like not being well structured. When looking back at who you are today, because this education system, despite being like having cliches there and there, it produces a lot of African doctors, a lot of people who have done a lot to African communities. Looking back to say, if this education wasn't the way it was, we never had like colonizers as Africans, would you be as smart wisdom that you have today? Would you be having it?
You need to go back into time immemorial and sit with their grandfathers and hear the amount of data they could recite from memory. Just a glimpse of it is to listen to the poets during the praises of the kings, and you hear someone reciting over 4, 5, 6, 10 pages of data, historical data. Wena, wenzalo, wayala, wenzalo. And you look at that kind of intel, I don't know what you want to call wisdom. You get into some parts of Mali, parts of Senegal, you meet these griots, the kora players, the griots, who can recite 60 generations, 60 from memory. And then they pick up their mother's side and they go for another 60 from memory. They pick up the uncles of the mother and they pick up their grandfathers. And you walk up into the Dahomey, you walk up into the Maasais, you walk up into the Soha kingdoms and people could name stars, clouds from memory. You walk up, hence I'm saying language is a science. You walk up to someone who knows more than 4, 5, 6, 700 trees by memory. And then you tell me that how wise are you and me, because we can recite William Shakespeare and we know when the Afrikaners came into South Africa. And you call that knowledge. So yes, it's academic knowledge, which is relevant in the environment for which it was created for. But when you have that knowledge and you walk up back to your village, I bet you as empty and as stupid as a head boy who will show you the cow dung of a cow and tell you this cow is sick. It's got this problem, it's got this problem, it ate poison. You must go and get that shrub to fix this. You go to school and study how the whole issue of animal husbandry, and someone can do it from their heads. You're bitten by a snake right now. So okay, sit down here, tie, cut. Go and take a shrub and fix you. So I don't understand you fully when you talk about wisdom. If it is wisdom in the colonial sense of when someone speaks a few statements that are out of your thinking pattern, oh, that's deep. We are really talking about wisdom as relevance of knowledge and application, resulting in welfare of life and well-being of community and society. So I would not want even to compare the Western education system and our indigenous knowledge system. Ours is ground-based. It's life-based. This one is book-based, tourism-based. It's a passport to run away from your country, to go to another country where they can appreciate this kind of knowledge. Hence, we have an exodus, brain drain of our African students into diaspora, because this Africa is no longer relevant to them. Ask them, why are you here? I no longer feel appreciated in Africa. My skills are not maximized, and the lifestyle here is a bit backwards. So you're educated, and your education can no longer make you eat mdog. So it's in between, because you have a stomach problem. You can't eat your indigenous foods. And then you're educated. So now I think the education has been overrated because it's not relevant. That's why right now, if you can do a research and find out how many graduates are unemployed, you would come up with a very shocking figure that after 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of academic work, they want experience. Then you wonder, so what were you doing for the past 20 years? Primary school, high school, college. Go and apply for a job, they want experience.
4 years.
But tell me an 8-year, 10-year-old boy who grew up at the farm, when his father dies, will the cattle die? No. Will the goats die?
They started like tending goats at the age of 6. 7.
He already has the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom. So I would not want to classify or even compare African wisdom to intellectualism of colonial education structures, which is always studying others, their history, their poetry, their English and grammar, their interpretation of cosmology and geography. The world is like this, it's like this. No, it can't be. Go and study the mosques in East Africa, in Central and Northwest Africa. And you see those mosques of aliens, ancient species. And you look at the people and say, how did you come to design this? No, we met these people some time ago. And we have preserved their memory in art form. So study those things. You may actually discover that there's more to African culture, traditions, than what the white man simply calls an artifact. I mean, you look at pieces of art like this, Bomzilankat, which is a ring around your head, whole cosmology. What is above as it is below, the roundness of the world, the downloading center of data. When you find an African sitting like this and looking into the skies, he's aware that the cosmos in the universe is at residence within my space. This is architecture, how we build our houses. This is how life must be. This is the circle of family. This is the interconnectedness. So it just stops being, while the Europeans are glorifying squares, square offices, square houses, the African comes up with just a piece of art. And if you look at it carefully, you discover, oops, there is actually much more to circles of life and how round houses appeal more to wellness of human existence than square houses. The energy, the bounce back of energy, how square houses consume more energy and how round houses distribute heat and cold equally well in the houses. And so you don't just look at them as artifacts good enough to take and hang in a library. Oh, here's a Zulu or Ndebele, a crown that men put on. Then you go into the, it's made out of this and this. It's not even about the texture and the making of it. It is, what does it represent? What is here for it in terms of our learning and knowledge systems?
So, Ash, the issue of time. Looking at the challenges that all African countries are facing, and I'm saying the following terms are wedding intentional, all of African countries are facing the same thing. When you go to, I saw a headline yesterday saying there's a boy in Nigeria who's sentenced to death after protesting. In Mozambique right now, just after the election, the young people have risen up to say these elections were rigged, and they're protesting for change. They're saying for years there's no change since after 1975. Here in South Africa, same thing, we're protesting. Zimbabwe, same thing. Where did our African leaders get it wrong after obtaining democracy in each and every African country?
I wish to pass this comment, uncomfortable as it is. What many African young people would coin as corruption, I would want to remove that word and replace it with a relevant word, which is incompetence. Incompetence. You have 10 students in a classroom, same teacher, same time, same books, same curriculum, same timetable. 4 students get A's, or 2 get A's. The other 3, 4, 5 get B's and C's. The other one gets a D, and the other one gets an F. Same place. Would you say the one who got an F is corrupt?
No, I think it's either they didn't put enough time to prepare for the exam, or even if they try so hard to consume the information, trying to be ready.
So it's incompetence.
Yeah.
So they're basically incompetent. In the place where everyone and others are competent, this one is proved to be incompetent. So you take soldiers from Angola, take soldiers from Mozambique, take soldiers from Zambia. Viva, 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 viva. Amandla, Amandla. Pick up all of that. Chase away the old government. put all of them into the office. Now, what we need is a balance sheet. Now what we need is procurement services. What we need are value chains. What we need are stock exchanges. What we need are government, intergovernment relationships, and to set up a government. Now there's no Viva here. You either know how to run a system or you don't know how to run a system. And in the midst of not knowing how to run a system, this is what happens. This one comes, I'm selling, I want to go and buy computers. Oh, you need computers. That's all he hears as a manager. Goes to his procurement manager. Go and buy computers from that guy. Whether those computers are relevant. What's the lifespan? What is their cost? They've already gone ahead to tell that friend that I'm going to give you the deal. 300,000. No, make it 4. Sharp. And this procurement manager goes and buys those computers, which are inflated. The business, how government collapse. Instead of you, who is working with me, as my procurement manager, we call them technocrats, coming back to me as your senior, and you say, you want computers? Stop there. I'm coming back to you. You go there and get 3, 4, 5 quotations. You come back and say, the computers that we want, here's the spec. The value on the market is this like this. The 300,000 you're talking about, we can actually get these things at about, say, 150,000. We are saving the company another 50,000. No. The support structures of our politicians is incompetent and is inflating the prices and eating the taxpayers' money. And we call that corruption. I don't call it corruption. So you cannot take military soldiers and give them technical, professional, office-driven jobs to run. They are not corrupt. They are incompetent. And I'm saying so from the north of Africa to the south of Africa.
Same thing was happening in Kenya a few months ago.
That's incompetence. That's incompetence at its highest. So the young people, again, comes another wave. We're tired. Back again. The same strategy. Amandla. Wait. So push all the old people out. Put a bunch of young people in the same office. Painful truth. They think that America, some of them, they think that we are going to do this, then we get foreign aid, then we get donor money, then we can get foreign investors, and what and what. And in your world as a young person, do you think there's a man out there who is just waiting to come to Africa and donate his money and place his investment if there's no return on investment?
No way.
How much would that investment cost you? So we have the old people here who are incompetent, who are coming face to face with young people who are zealous and equally incompetent also.
But don't you think the young people now are more educated and learn from the mistakes of their fathers, can do much better?
Until they circumcise their minds with a correct Pan-African mindset, the education that they've gone through for the past 25 years never taught them about African things. They consumed how America is running, how Britain is running, how Sweden is running, and how Norway is running, how Dubai is running. And so when they get into office, they want to make Africa another Britain. They want to make Africa another America. So the question is that knowledge relevant to the environment that you are coming to work in? Or you're now going to become the new colonizer because you're now a coconut. You're brown outside, but you're white inside. Your software, the way of your thinking, the way you process your things. Even after giving you 300,000 rands right now as cash, prove me wrong to go back to Danielton and build a village and buy cows and goats. No,
I'm going to buy.
it will start right here.
In the suburbs.
It's going to start right here in Sandton.
Waterfall.
It's going to start in Sandton here.
Yes.
We go and maybe, let's chow about 10-15% of it. And we swipe a little bit of the Gucci's and etc. By the time you're buying a house, you almost have half of it left, if not nothing left. Then you look around and say, but what's wrong? The software from which your morals, your expenses, your sense of style, your sense of achievement is seated where the you that you want to become is seated. It's not sitting in a black space. The filmmaker that you want to become. Prove me wrong. That you have a clear picture of an African movie guru that you are emulating and say, I want to become like that guy. Or you want to become another Spielberg. You want to become another world-renowned what. So what do? To do that, you benchmark what he has done, vis-a-vis what you want to do because you want to achieve that. But who told you that we want to see that? We want to see ourselves. Hence, I always say that an education that teaches you about other people more than it teaches you about yourself will always render you as a tourist away from your own culture. The passport out of your culture to that culture that you emulate. That's what corrupt software does to an African hardware. And when the software is not working, hardware suffers. The face is beautiful, and the software is not working, hardware suffers. When a country is beautiful, but we don't have the brains to process our beauty, our resources will always end up in the wrong place. Hence, the penis or the vagina of a drunk boy does not belong to them, but to those that are sober. So are the resources of people that are intoxicated with other people's expectations. Their entire efforts and zeal does not belong to them, as they will live to impress those they think are watching, and they are not there. What will the white people think? They are not even thinking about you, for crying out loud. What will they say? They'll say nothing. Look at Rory, look at Mali, look at Niger. They can balk and hawk, but the African young people with that kind of a mindset, then I'd say as young people, go there, understudy the revolution, a meaningful revolution. Not in Johannesburg streets, no. Go there and study how to take a system from a colonial hands and swing it towards Africa. That happens rarely in one's lifetime. What has started off in Burkina Faso. It happens once in a lifetime. What has happened in Zimbabwe? You can lambast it and insult it and etc. Once in a lifetime. Where a black man wakes up in the morning and says, okay, I want my land. All right, I don't care. You don't know how to farm. Zimbabwe will become a jungle. I don't care. It's like me marrying my wife. You don't have no right, young man, to tell me when to sleep with my wife and when not to sleep with her. It's none of your business. Go get yourself your own wife and write your own timetable. So is our land. There's no foreign person who can tell us when to sleep with our land, as if we have a privilege of whispering to France how to plant, whispering to Scotland and Britain and America how to utilize their resources. Have you ever heard Ramaphosa telling Donald Trump and Joe Biden what plants to plant in South Carolina? Not even courage, not even a platform. Not even a platform to say that. We'll even all our African governments look at them, we don't want GMO foods. No, the ships are coming. Business transactions have been signed. 6-10-year contracts. We'll be supplying you with wheat. We'll be supplying you with chickens from Argentina. Contracts are signed. Chicken lickens, KFCs. Food is approved in Canada by the FDA. So that even your local chickens here cannot make it to some of the local restaurants. They must be coming from Argentina where they've been approved. So what is this all about? This franchising of businesses. It's nothing to do with creating jobs. It's a place where they want to sell their resources to you and you will not be able to use your own resources in your own economy. And what you're happy about is receiving a salary rather than having ownership of the entire value chain. You follow?
Yes. Do you agree with some of the MK things talking about having our land back? MK saying the same thing, EFF is saying the same thing, and also
ANC says the same thing.
And also MK say we want to educate all Africans in all South Africans school their history. We want to make it compulsory.
You cannot talk land and then you talk history. You're mixing things. People don't eat history. What you need to do for the next 5 to 10 years, what I said to Swapo a week ago, before you touch land, South Africa and any African countries, before you start that, make agriculture compulsory.
Yeah.
From zero, develop people who love land, who understand agriculture, who understand fisheries, who understand fruits and vegetables, who understand animal husbandry, who understand what is underneath the ground, minerals, who understand how housing works. Land. If there's any subject that we should never be missing in a curriculum and it must be compulsory, it is land education. We can call it, don't call it agriculture because you're just focusing into one. Call it land education so that it becomes holistic to what is on the land, what is underneath the land, and how to utilize it and create the value chains around the land. 5 to 10 years. Push that land education, and leave the rest to innovation. Because every student who walks out of those institutions will put a garden behind his house, will plant a tree, will what? And when they find 1 acre, they will use it. When they find 2 acres, they will use it. And immediately the land that we have right now, which is underutilized, is now fully utilized. We can now begin to look at the bigger farms. But we'll have capacity, which is where Zimbabwe, we slightly missed it. It was out of anger, out of the British missed promises, that we woke up in the morning and said, bugger off the white people. We have our land back. So there you have an army general sitting on 500 hectares of land, and he pulls out all the orange trees and sits on the house. You can't even paint and look after it. Food basket goes low, the dollar goes down, food basket goes down, people are in hunger, uprisings and etc. Which for me, the intention was good, but it lacked the capacitation. So you need political will that must meet up with qualification and knowledge of what you are taking away from a person, or else you'd remain with land, but it's no food. Then people start laughing. Where did they think they were going? Taking all the land, and all the Zimbabweans are running away from the country, coming to foreign lands. But ultimately, it's not a bad decision, because one of the African countries can claim that all the land
belongs to us.
If our generation can't use it, it's fine. The next generation, and the next, and the next. We will reach there when one generation will wake up to discover what is it that they have. On the other side, we continuously have bread and water and have jobs and a beautiful economy, lots of flashlights, and people seem to be doing well. And generation after generation, you're giving birth to slaves.
Sir, one more question. Looking at GNU so far, I trusted Panyaza, but I saw something yesterday that disturbed me. He spent, I think it was like 4,129 pistols. I think they were saying it was 78,000 each, something on the news. It really disturbed me. I trusted him so much. Looking at the GNU so far.
Where are the pistols going?
To wardens. You know, he has wardens, in criminal prevention wardens in Gauteng. They're saying it's going to there. Looking at the GNU so far and how things are going, looking at the economy and everything in the country, do you think we're in the right track?
You are in the right track. You are in what I call short-term solutions to long-term problems. So for the time being, yes, South Africa is doing very well because it is diluted the majority vote from ANC and swung the vote towards DA. It will give investors confidence that transparency and governance are in place. It will attract more people, white money, to come and do more industry, and then employ more blacks. Blacks will be happy to receive a check at the end of the month, a bicycle and a watch for retirement. So I have started as early as 2 years ago, and I made up a video. You can go and double check on it. We no longer want to talk about employment. Any government minister who talks about employment, kick him off the stage. We want ownership. We don't want employment. We want ownership. We want to reach a time when we can also employ white people in our own factories, in our own industries, because we own the value chain. But we cannot always be looking at the economy where blacks are supplying cheap labor and the white people are eating all the cream on top of the basket. It can't be. Sooner or later, we need to turn this table upside down. Where you also, a graduate like yourself, film director, you can call some Italians and French producers and say, please, sit around there, get that shot, now pay you. This is the ultimate dream that I could say I have about Africans, where we are no longer being eaten as a menu, but we have now become part of those that are cutting the cake also on the menu. We need ownership more than employment. Employment is for slaves. Ownership is for masters. And any country that develops its citizens to become owners, Dubai, of their own economy, everyone else, they must knock at the door. We'll open when we want to open. And if you're busy, please go away. That's power.
Yes.
So our governments right now are in power, but they're not in control. They're in power. Blue lights. But you don't even have money to pay your own political members. You don't even have money to pay your own political rally.
You'll go to Oppenheimer.
Then you go back again to the same people that you are saying they're rubbish. Hey, may we please, Oppenheimer, Nikki, Rupert, may we have some money over there? And then you look at them and say, but what circus is this? So we need African money. We don't need one Mutsepe. We need 35 to 50 Mutsepes. Africans. And when we are doing works of elections, we take money from our own brothers. And then we do our own politics. Because politics is a prostitute of economy. And he who donates the money determines the policies. The one who pays the piper chooses the songs that must be sung. That's why you have never seen Rupert and Oppenheimer casting a vote anywhere in the country.
Wearing a political shirt.
Their money votes for them. Give 50,000 to DA, put 30 with the ANC, put 10 with the AC, put 5 there, put 5 there, put 5 there. Give them more airtime on TV, increase them on the internet and newspapers. Come on, let's pump it. Marketing strategy. Come, guys, write the marketing strategy. We want so and so as a president. Please write all the good articles about him. Sell him. Before you notice it, people are there in the ballots voting. So who has voted? It's all propaganda. And the more we are teaching the young people, we hope that many of you young people would wake up from the slumber of thinking that the white man is your friend. He is here for business interests, not for cultural development and self-determination. No, the most scary thing to a white man is an African who knows who they are. Yeah.
That's right. They will remove you, as they call it.
Yes.
Mr. Marara say, Mr. Marara Maponga, no more Joshua, right? Mr. Marara Maponga, thank you so much, sir, for your time. I really, really appreciate it, and I always appreciate it and cherish it.
Blessings.